Geshe Tenzin Losel is also planning some more sessions later this year with Lambing Wales, but also, if all being well, a visit in autumn, September to October. And just for the format, as normal, we'll be running up till about 1 a.m. There'll be a break around 11.
1 p.m.
1 p.m. Sorry, yeah. There's also a bit of an opportunity for questions as well at various times. If you want to ask a question, we're quite a small number, so you can just feel free to speak up or put your hand up or use the icons, and of course you can always pop them into chat too. So whenever you're ready.
Well, hi everybody. As Jason said, this is the last talk, so we've got to get through to all the way to the end of the verses. But first of all, we're going to chant it. So I think it's very nice to have some a version of Lamrim that we can actually chant. So I'm on my own today. So the lady, the nun who was chanting with me the last 2 times, who had a very beautiful voice, she's gone off back to Kopan Nunnery in Kathmandu, Nepal. Things seem to have loosened up enough there for her to go back to her studies, which is very good for her. But it means I've got to chant on my own. Still, you Welsh people are supposed to love singing, aren't you? So hopefully you can enjoy chanting, even if we can't all hear each other. We can exercise our voices a little bit. And let J. Rinpoche, Tsongkhapa, speak for himself, as it's his eloquent words that we're going to listen to and then chant and then try to understand a little bit. Song of the Stages of the Path then, and that will be followed by short mandala and refuge. Before the Shakya Lord I bow my head, your form from hosts of perfect virtues born, your speech fulfills the hopes of boundless beings, your mind sees as they are all knowables. Maitreya and Manju Ghosh I bow to you, our peerless teachers, foremost spiritual sons, the task of all the conqueror's deeds assumed. You emanate in play to countless realms. At Nagarjuna Sanga's feet I bow, earth's ornaments renowned throughout 3 worlds. You show just as it is the intention of the mother of the conqueror's heart to sound. Atisha, homage treasurer who holds the full and flawless pith instructions for the path of the profound view and vast deeds, passed down well by the 2 great charioteers. I bow to you, my teachers, with respect. I sing all endless scriptures moved by love. With skillful deeds you show the fortunate the best approach which leads to liberty. Of all us learned ones crown ornaments, their fame a banner shining forth for beings. From Nagarjuna Sangha down in line, this graded path to Buddhahood has passed. It yields all creatures wished without fail, a prized instruction like a powerful king, collecting myriad streams of splendid text, an ocean too of glorious eloquence. No, all his speech is contradiction free, all scriptures see as personal advice. The intention of the conqueror find with ease, same from the chasm of the great mistake. So who with sense will not be captured by the three beings graded path supreme advice, adhered to by the many fortunate, the learned ones of India and Tibet, for certain to explain or hear but once this essence brief of scriptures all accrues, vast benefit of teaching, listening to true Dharma, contemplate its meaning then. Correct and strong reliance in thought and deed upon a spiritual guide who shows the path. No is the root cause well propitious for all excellence of this and future lives. Though life may be the cost, delight him with the offering of doing what he says. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too who yearn for freedom, do the same. Far finer than a wish-fulfilling gem, this life with leisure found, but now this once so hard to find, soon lost a lightning flash. Reflecting in this fashion, realize well, all worldly deeds are but as winnow chaff, so always sees its essence day and night. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too who yearn for freedom, do the same. Not sure death brings no birth in evil realms. Convinced the triple gem relieves that fear. Take steadfast refuge, precepts untransgressed. And also it depends on this, think well, on actions black and white and their effects. Then do or cast aside as should be done. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too who yearn for freedom, do the same. Form well endowed to win the highest path. Till that is found, there's no progressing far. Train in its cause as nothing incomplete. Its vital thread or soiled with wrongdoing stains, be cleansed not least of karmic hindrances. Be always keen to use the full four paths. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too who yearn for freedom, do the same. Unless you strive to know true suffering's faults, no genuine urge for freedom grows thing too. On origin, samsara's causal stage. If not, you won't know how to cut its root. So then despair of and renounce the world, all keen to know what binds you to the round. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too who yearn for freedom, do the same. Awakening mind, the great ways center post, support and base for mighty waves of deeds, elixir making both collections gold, a myriad hoard of countless virtues must the hero conquer children, knowing this, make that most precious mind their utmost bond. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too who yearn for freedom, do the same. Sorry. The wishing jewel of giving grants beings hopes, fine blade that cuts the knot of meanness through. This conqueror children's deed is source and base of dauntless courage, far resounding fame. The wise ones knowing this the good path take, of giving body, wealth and virtues all. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too who yearn for freedom, do the same. Its waters cleanse away misconduct stains, its moon rays soothe afflictions, fever pangs, superb like mirror amidst a myriad beings, who all bow down to that no path and daunt. Morality, the noble knowing this, adopt it well and guard it like their eyes. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too who yearn for freedom, do the same. Forbearance, best adornment of the strong, the perfect means to bear affliction's sting. Garuda to the snake of hate opposed, strong arm against the weapon of harsh words. So knowing this, be trained in always in the armor of forbearance unsurpassed. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. Attired with steady, ceaseless diligence, your insights and your scriptural knowledge grow. Wax like the moon, your acts all purposeful. Whatever work succeeds as you intend. The conqueror children knowing this, cut off all laziness with forceful diligence. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. Then concentration, sovereign o'er the mind, when placed like marrow, never wavering, send forth it takes up virtuous objects all, to body and mind great bliss appliance it brings. Great yogis, knowing this, resort to it, to quell our foe destruction at all times. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. And wisdom, I sing suchness most profound, path to extract samsara's very root, the source of excellence in scripture praised, most famed of lamps to lift confusion's gloom. The wise who yearn for freedom, knowing this, with every effort generate that path. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. One pointed concentration by itself, we don't see how can cut samsara's root. No wisdom lacking calm abiding's path, dispel afflictions much though it may probe. So mount the wisdom settling how things are, upon unwavering calm abiding steed. Wide wisdom then probe well with its sharp sword, of reason's middle way beyond extremes, destroy all objects of extremist views, and so make insight into suchness vast. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. With concentration from what need to say, one pointed focus plus discernment that precisely probes that the concentration grows, that's fixed unwavering on the mode of being. Amazing who sing this strive to achieve, united, calm, abiding, and insight. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. Praise those who dual voidness cultivate, in equipoise the space like voidness, and post-meditation the illusion like, by wisdom joined with method then perfect, the conqueror children's deeds the fortunate, sing this, don't rest content with partial paths. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. Supreme great vehicle paths, cause and effect, both need the calm and path that practiced well. Safe guidance from an expert pilot take, and sail the tempest sets vast ocean o'er. Heed all the pith advice, make meaningful the leisure and endowments you've obtained. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. In order to acquaint my mind with it, and serve those others with good fortune too, I have explained in plain and simple words the whole path pleasing to the conquerors. Pray all migrators by this virtue be, not parted from the excellent pure path. I too, a yogi, made prayers in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, make the same. Short mandala. Sajipaki Chokshemato Tram Rirablingi Nidagan Badi Sangye Jingdu Mete Ulwagi Okunam Dajina Chapasho Idam Guru Ratnamandala Kamneryatayami. Refuge Bodhicitta. To Buddha, Dharma, and fine fellowship, I go for refuge till enlightenment. By my collections giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for all being's sake. To Buddha, Dharma, and fine fellowship, I go for refuge till enlightenment. By my collections giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for all being's sake. To Buddha, Dharma, and fine fellowship, I go for refuge till enlightenment. By my collections giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for all being's sake. So in the last two sessions, we did about a bit more than half of the verses that we've got to cover. So we still have quite a way to go. So we can't go too slowly, but we need to probably review a bit what we've covered before. But of course, chanting the whole set of verses again through from the beginning has helped to remind us what Tsongkhapa sets out as the stage of the path. Anyway, Tsongkhapa paid homage to those great ones, the great beings who preceded him and inspired him. And he remarks on the great qualities of the Lamrim sort of mode of composition, the Lamrim genre. And he's crediting Atisha for originating the Lamrim genre of teachings. He's saying it's Atisha who did that, this great teacher who came to Tibet from India and so preceded Tsongkhapa by about 300 years. But he himself, Tsongkhapa himself, deserves a great load of credit for making Buddha's teachings more easily comprehensible with this Lamrim style of presentation. So we're relying, if possible, if we can, if we have, but no hurry to make just to jump on, jump in and take any teacher or any lama as our special root lama. But if we have one, then it's great if we can devote ourselves sincerely to that root teacher. But don't, as I say, we don't rush in and just we must have some root lama. We must choose somebody. Just take your time. It's easy to be, a bit overeager in this case. So evaluate the teachings as they stand on their own merits. It's not just that we have to, find a root teacher and, make them our special guru. Do that slowly. But then, thinking about the teachings themselves, then we have this precious human rebirth now, this human bodily basis. So this is worth billions. This is worth more than millions and millions and millions of pounds. They're so few and far between. Even if we compare, just looking at the different forms of life on this earth, we can see how precious our human rebirth is. And you can say, well, there are 7 billion of us on this earth, but I think that's a few too many now. So, the stable conditions we've enjoyed now for, the religion of Buddhism to flourish over 2,500 years is a bit of a danger now. So we better just say the precious, the actual human rebirth, when we can actually, study the Buddha's teachings and, really receive and understand and move forward with them is not so. It's not quite the same as it's having any old human rebirth. So we're very, very fortunate indeed to have these present, temporarily, available, wonderful conditions for our, studies. So let's take advantage of that. Even if we don't think about, climate change, death comes soon enough. This fortunate basis, this vehicle which takes our consciousness into the space where we can, explore, understand a bit about, why are we here? What are we, what can we do? What's the best we can do with this sort of, spark of intelligence that we've got? Yes, well, this bodily basis that gives us that kind of an opportunity is very frail, it's very fragile, it's very fallible. Soon enough, it is going to fail us. So, there's no time to lose. And there's a great many and a great different variety of rebirth places we could go to after this life. So, some of those rebirth places are pretty gruesome and terrifying. So the least we can do is, take refuge, purify negative karma, and in future only stick to our pure, white actions, actions that don't harm others, preferably benefit them, actions that are in tune with the Dharma. And then Tsongkhapa says, having done that, then those who think a little bit more clearly, a little bit more deeply, then they think, yes, now, is there anything in samsara that is, worth working for? Is there anything here that is really, worthwhile in itself? And so then we generate the wish to go beyond, to pass beyond the world, to leave samsara altogether, some, a mature reflection on the way things are in a world like this one, samsara. So many dysfunctional tendencies. This is a word that comes up in Tsongkhapa's great Lamrim teaching, his prose work on the great treatise on the stages of the path. You come to this word, dysfunctional tendencies. It's not such a common word in ordinary English conversation, but there are so many of these in samsara. So even if we have fortunate rebirth and some good conditions, we could even be born in divine realm, a God realm, but still the dysfunctional tendencies don't leave us. And in the end, it's our self-grasping, there's some, the root of all afflictions, the root of all our sort of, unskillful actions, self-grasping, so these sort of levels of ignorance and, confusion and sort of, inability to really be skillful in the way we respond to things, but we have attachment and yes, anger and unskillful actions following from those. So then, we see like wherever we're born in samsara, it's going to be like this. And isn't it better if we can, to just renounce all that, to forsake all that and go beyond. And then the best and most highly praised response to this, assessment of samsara really is this isn't just our own predicament, but all sentient beings are kind of all those in samsara. They're all with us in this. They're all buffeted by the ways of suffering. They're all buffeted by the ways of confusion, and they're all buffeted by so many different problems, mental and physical. Inner problems, outer problems. So the best response to this predicament is what we tried to generate in the last session last month in March, and that's to generate bodhicitta. So that means we become determined not just to try and pull ourselves out of samsara, not just to extricate ourselves, but we want a solution that is more widely applicable, something we can do for all others too. And so this is our determination to become a Buddha. This is where that determination to become Buddha comes from. And this is the awakening mind of verse 16. I'm using the word bodhicitta, but this is the same as awakening mind. I think your verses have got the copy of the verses you were sent. Jill did say you do have verses numbers on them. The copy that Jason showed on the screen with those few sort of printing mistakes in it didn't have verse numbers, but the one that I think you were sent you know, as a part of this course was you've got verse numbers. So I did verse 16. That's what I stopped for a long time last week, because, you know, this is kind of been a fundamental point in the Lam Rim where we've well assessed our own, you know, our own response to the Four Noble Truths, you know, the Four Truths of truth of suffering, truth of cause of suffering, truth of cessation, truth of path, or the 12 links, you know, that the dramatic sort of diagram of the wheel of life that has got around the outer rim. They've got the 12 links. So how we sort of you know, let ourselves in for more and more of samsara. How it goes on. How the you know, the addiction to samsara, the compulsion to take rebirth and suffering is like is like compulsive. You know, so we're going around and round in a you know, on a kind of a wheel that we should be jumping off, but we don't really quite manage to do that. So when we've done all that on our own basis, then we have to, you know, then say, yeah, well, let's find the solution where everybody can, you know, get free. So find the solution where I can make my biggest contribution. I must get to Buddhahood. So then, as the Bodhisattva Togme Sangpo says, I'm reading one verse from his composition, the 37 practices of a Bodhisattva. And he says, when mothers who forever cherished you are suffering, what use your own happiness? To free all boundless beings then, please arouse, awakening mind. So does a conqueror's child. So a conqueror's child is a Bodhisattva. Conqueror is the Buddha. So, but somebody who's been born into the Buddha lineage, been born to follow on, you know, in the on the Bodhisattva, on the Buddhist path, you know, the Bodhisattva path to Buddhahood, conqueror's child. So when all our mothers, who forever cherished us from beginningless time, you know, throughout all those rebirths we've taken, when they're suffering, what use is, you know, just me working for my own happiness? That's not what I want to do. So then we develop this mind of bodhicitta. If we do that in itself, is a fantastic achievement. You know, that is the entryway to the bodhisattva path. That's, you know, the door, you know, of when we've generated bodhicitta, we're on the path to Buddhahood, not the path to our own individual liberation, nirvana, but the path to Buddhahood itself. So it's a fantastic achievement. But you know, I used to think that if I could manage that, that would be fantastic. You know, and then I'd take a long rest. You know, now I've generated bodhicitta. So as if you've done something enormous. It is enormous. It is fantastic. But you find that that's just the beginning of the path, you see. So then you find that after that, you've got a lot more work to do. The work is just beginning when you've awakened bodhicitta. So that's what the next verses point out, and that's what Tsongkhapa points out in his long Lamrim treatise. That now we have to practice. Now we have to really work for the benefit of others. It's not just to generate the mind wishing to do that and determined to become Buddhahood for their sake. Then we've actually got to follow, you know, do those practices, which will carry us all the way to Buddhahood. And it's a long road, you know. It's a long practice in the sutra vehicle. So this is the next section of the of our verse presentation. Then is the 6 perfections. So these are the all of the Buddha's practices condensed into these 6 perfections, and then, you know, the last one is expanded with several verses. The last 2. And then we get a slight quick mention at the end of the tantric vehicle. So most of our talk now is about these 6 perfections. So you know, there's a lot to say, but we don't have much time, so never mind. We want to do a bit of meditation as well, and we can have a few questions if we've got time as well. So I'm not going to say very much, but yeah, we have 6 perfections now. So what are they? They are perfection of giving, and then the perfection of morality, and then the perfection of forbearance or patience. Often you see it translated as patience. And then diligence, which you might see translated as joyous effort or joyous enthusiasm. And then we have concentration. And then the last one, wisdom. So Tsongkhapa says all of the Bodhisattva's practices, you know, can be condensed into those 6. So that's the most convenient kind of, you know, summary of all the things that a Bodhisattva should be doing. Yeah, so he wants to get to enlightenment, yeah? How's he going to do it? Well, he's got to have two collections, a collection of merit and a collection of wisdom. So those are the, if you condense it into two, so there's a collection of merit and a collection of wisdom. So those are that's how the practice of the Buddhahood is set out. Wisdom, that cuts through our ignorance. Wisdom burns away and cleans away our basic kind of foolishness of mind, our basic sort of misgrasping that gets us into so much trouble. So the wisdom is the direct antidote to that. The direct antidote to this realizing of selflessness is a direct antidote to the self-grasping, the ultimate level kind of ignorance. So this is the one that our practice of wisdom really subdues. And then, on the other side, the merit collection is like see, so Buddhahood is like be very much empowered to do so much goodness, so many good deeds for others. You're so well empowered to sort of teach skillfully and to work for the benefit of others. So you really need to build up a huge collection of kind of merits, a huge collection of virtue in order to be able to do that. So Buddha isn't just a wise sort of consciousness, which is dwelling on emptiness and is freed from all the the shadows and the dysfunctional tendencies that we talk about, but it also has this appearance ability. He has this ability to work for the benefit of others, and therefore he needs supreme ways of manifesting for the sake of all beings who are in whatever way he can help them, whatever way they're ready for the teachings or whatever he can offer. So then he needs not just the sort of the wisdom side, not just the kind of the Dharma Kaya, or the Dharma body, which is sort of the embodiment of his wisdom, his knowledge of emptiness, and the emptiness itself. But he needs the the appearance side, the form bodies, the way that he can be of use to others. At least the first four, he's got to be able to appear to them and to teach them. So the other perfections apart from wisdom is very much a part of building up the the reservoir of merit, the reservoir of causes to create this final variety of form bodies the Buddha can take in order to make contact, work for others. But we're going to look at that in the terms of these 6 perfections anyway. So the first one of these perfections is giving. So I can only say a few words about each one, but I'll do my best. So we look at verse number 17 then. This is the verse on the perfection of giving. So Tsongkhapa says, the wishing jewel of giving grants being's hopes, fine blade that cuts the knot of meanness through. This conquer children's deed is source and base of dauntless courage, far resounding fame. The wise ones, knowing this, the good path take, of giving, body, wealth, and virtues all. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. So we can all appreciate the good qualities of giving. I'm sure we can all appreciate the good qualities of generosity, especially when people are being generous to us and giving us something nice. We can all appreciate that. But here we're thinking about the other way around. We're talking about, the benefits of us being generous to others. So that's even better. That's even more, a good thing to have than just people being generous to us, according to, the way the Bodhisattva thinks. So really the benefit here we're talking about is the benefit of us giving to others. So what are the benefits? Well, it's certainly the antidote to miserliness, meanness, and greed and covetousness. So all these qualities that we feel that they don't sound very nice, do they? So are we really covetous, greedy people? Well, maybe not, but we all have some difficulty in giving when the time comes to be generous. We have sort of some reservations. There's some things we couldn't possibly give and other things we can give a little of, but not too much, you know. So that's as far as we get, or as far as a person like me gets anyway. But a Buddha goes far beyond that. A bodhisattva, he has to develop the ability to give all, you know, to give everything. It's not just avoiding the negativity of being miserly and too mean, but there has to have a very positive attitude where, you know, he'll give absolutely everything. So that's really a kind of, you know, far-reaching kind of perfection, a far-reaching kind of marvelous attitude that he is able to, you know, give up absolutely everything he's got, you know, and he or she, they really train like that. So the verse, you know, if you look at the verse, the wishing jewel of giving grants beings hope. So yes, obviously the giving is going to be, you know, if it's done skillfully at least, you know, it's being, it's helping others beings, it's making them happy. You need some resources, you need some wealth, you need some, you know, sort of helpful conditions to be able to be able to, for you to be able to live in this world, you know, and other realms too. I'm sure, you know, that things don't come easily. You know, we have difficulties, we face hardships, we face poverty, we face hunger and thirst. So, you know, the bodhisattva's attitude of giving is like, you know, just trying to sort of alleviate all these, you know, troubles and kind of shortcomings in other people's lives. So, you know, it's a very great ability to have if you've got the resources, and then you can, you know, share them with others instead of just keeping them for yourself, you know. Then you make a very great difference in the world just by doing that, you know. So, and this attitude of the giving that the Bodhisattva trains in, you know, it's a fine blade that cuts the knot of meanness through. So meanness, stinginess, this is, you know, all something we'd all like to be without, you know. So, but you know, how can we be like, you know, how can we train ourselves like to be like completely sort of have this attitude of generosity? So this is what the Bodhisattva tries to do. And this conqueror's deeds, it says, going on with the text, this conqueror's children's deed is source and base of dauntless courage, far resounding fame. So if you do manage to become, you know, somebody who's has the ability to give in the way that you know, the Bodhisattva trains, then you become a very courageous person. You become a very, you know, somebody whose courage cannot be turned back. You know, it's like a dauntless courage. It's a courage that won't be dismayed. It won't be like you know, a kind of, you know, a sort of cut off by any you know, contrary circumstance. So that's a marvelous kind of, you know, you know, complete sense of, you know, powerful giving is really like you know, something that we really think, well, is that really possible? But the Bodhisattva trains like that, and you know, they really want to be as helpful as possible to all others. So they take that road, you know, that there's nothing they won't give if they can. And that includes even their body, you see. So, you know, this giving is taken to a complete extreme. Like you give away everything you have, even your body, if it's necessary, if it will benefit others. Doesn't mean you give it away in situations where, you know, your body might give benefit to one person or one creature, you know, but then the rest of your life is wasted because you've lost your life, you know, by giving your body to another, you know. So it's a question of skillful giving. The Bodhisattva did give his body to a starving tigress when the tigress was about to eat her own cubs. You know, there's that story that's sort of the place where he's supposed to have done it is in Nepal, and you can visit that place as a pilgrimage site if you go to Nepal. So the Buddha did, as a bodhisattva, give away his body to a starving tigress to feed her when she was so hungry that she was about to eat her own cubs. But about that time, the bodhisattva was very advanced. You know, he could give his body confident that you know, he would get. It wouldn't be an impediment on his path of progress. It would be like a great opportunity for him to make a supreme sacrifice. But he was an advanced bodhisattva, so it didn't mean that he would, you know, be then, you know, there'd be a question of where he would be reborn in the next life. You know, his bodhicitta was so powerful that You know, he was assured of a, you know, a fortunate rebirth in the next life, and he could carry on his bodhisattva progress. And that giving of his body was an act of great merit. It wasn't an act where, oh well, it was a bit of a waste of a good life. You know, he was able to like be, you know, carry on his bodhisattva progress without any hindrance. So it was a great sort of, you know, good deed for him, not a wasteful one. But if we did it, you know, that's a completely different matter. Nobody's saying that we should go out in the street and, you know, give our house away because somebody needs a house, or give our body away because somebody is, you know, there's a starving creature, a starving tiger around in the forest or something. You know, it's something that we should are able to do at the moment. You know, that's a completely different matter. You know, we're not trying to, you know, encourage people to be foolish and just reckless in their type of giving. But you know, if we are going to be bodhisattvas, then we don't want to have any of this miserliness, stinginess left. You know, I'm more important. You know, it's you're working for the welfare of others at all times. So you know, the attitude of the perfection of generosity is that you're willing to give away whatever you've got. You know, if it's going to be of any use to anybody else. So you know, they're more important than you. So you are you know, thinking along those lines. And, you know, if we have resources in this life, if we have good things in this life, we have, you know, good, you know, enough money to live on, and, you know, enough, you know, sort of whatever, financial backing to, you know, study the Dharma, or enough sort of food or medicines, whatever we need to make this life reasonably comfortable, and to give us the leisure time to study the Dharma, then where do those resources come from? Yeah. And the answer is that they come from, you know, acts of generosity in the past. So that's what the explanations of karma tell us, that, you know, the result of poverty and the result of miserliness and you know, meanness and, you know, keeping everything for ourselves just because we're sort of, you know, afraid to help others because we think, you know, we might suffer thereby and so forth. And other people should look after themselves. You know, it's not up to us to help others. Others should look after themselves. And in attitudes of, you know, close-mindedness like that, then that's where, you know, sort of a rebirth in very poor circumstances might come from in the future. And rebirth is like a hungry ghost, or, you know, sort of rebirth as those creatures are really deprived of even the basic necessities. That comes out of miserliness. And if we practice generosity and goodness and kindness and giving things in this life, then that is the deep source of our, you know, wealth and you know, sort of resources in the future. So that's how the sort of karma explains it. So being generous and you know, trying to train in this bodhicitta attitude, the bodhisattva attitude of generosity, isn't just beneficial for others. You know, it'll be beneficial for us too. Like you know, the things we'll need in future lives to make progress on the path. They come from, you know, being generous and being, you know, helpful to others in this life. So there's that, you know, not just getting to Buddhahood, not just you know, training on the bodhisattva after Buddhahood, but, you know, the stages on the way to Buddhahood. Like we need good conditions and some sort of a degree of wealth or resources in the future. So we get that from being generous in this life. Yeah, so the Buddha takes great joy in helping others, and you know, giving is a very basic way we can do that. We may not have much ability to teach the Dharma, or we may not have much skill in this, that, and the other. But at least, you know, we can be kind to others, to give as much as possible of what we've got, share it with others. So let's move on. We can come back to giving maybe in a bit of meditation, so or questions. So the next one, the next verse then is talking about the next, that's number 18, is talking about morality. It's talking about ethics, you know, ethical conduct, ethical behavior, or ethical discipline. So this is one, this is the second of the perfections that the Bodhisattva trains in. So, of course, we can talk about the 10 non-virtuous actions here. So we've, we talk about that at the earlier stages of the path, where we, refrain from negative actions and try to do virtuous actions instead of negative ones, training in practice of, following the rules of karma. So that's very much something we already have heard about from earlier stages on the path, restraining from the 10 non-virtuous actions. We talk about restraining from the 7 non-virtuous actions of body and speech, especially. So that's, avoiding killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and then avoiding lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, idle speech, the 4 of speech. And then the ones that are specifically in mind, I mean, talk about covetousness, the wish of wishing to harm others, hostility, and then wrong view. So mistaken views, unhelpful views about the 3 jewels, the 4 truths, and so forth, not believing the Buddhas, not believing in that there is a path to enlightenment at all, being very pessimistic about the wrong views. Yeah. So again, these are all, just like miserliness, or just like meanness, that's the opposite of giving. Bad behavior, of bad morality, breaking the sort of guidelines of morality. Where's it going to lead you? Well, it's going to lead other people. It's going to lead you to be, careless about harming others. So this sort of, not keeping the rules of morality is kind of a selfishness. It's kind of, and sort of trying to get an advantage for yourself, trying to, being careless about other people's feelings, about other people's lives, and you just sort of going on your own way, just thinking about yourself alone. And so that's when you tend to do negative actions, isn't it? So the benefit, though, if you can keep to these guidelines of morality, is completely surpassing any temporary advantage you get from just ignoring them, for advantage in this life. And so this is a quotation taken from His Holiness's advice to Gelongs, His Holiness advice to fully ordained monks. He's picked out some quotations from different tantras and different sutras. So I'm just going to read one of those. So this is a quotation from the Tantra requested by Subahu and picked by His Holiness, and it says the following: depending on the earth, infallibly, all crops come forth. So from morality, when by compassion's waters rendered moist, the highest pure white dharmas come forth too. So it's like morality is the kind of root, the basis, the very sort of foundation of all our dharma practice. So just like the crops all come forth from the earth, when the earth is good, the crops will come forth, and the earth is where they're going to come from and nowhere else. So in the same way, it's from morality that our pure, white dharmas, our dharma progress, our progress in any other aspect of the dharma is going to come forth from keeping, to the sort of guidelines of morality. And then, of course, this quotation very nicely adds the idea of compassion. So the earth is, our basis, sort of our dharma practice. So that's like the practice of morality. But then it's watered by compassion. So the idea of our good feelings, tender feelings for others, is like a compassion. So our good behavior of avoiding harming others, and then that's added to by the sort of the waters of compassion, so that we're not just sort of avoiding to harming others, not just refraining from harming others, but then actively going out to help them as well. So that's a nice a way of thinking about it. The earth is the morality, and then water's the water of compassion, sort of makes the earth moist, so that, you know, a very good crop of pure Dharma practice comes forth. So I quite like that. So there's many good quotations like that, of course, but we'll just read what Tsongkhapa says. Its waters cleanse away misconduct stains. So now, if you think of morality as a water, as a cleansing water, cleansing away misconduct stains, and its moon rays soothe afflictions, fever pangs. So when we understand the benefit of keeping morality, not just restraining ourselves, but understanding why, you know, then our afflictions will lessen. So yes, the water is a common idea of, you know, water cleansing away, you know, dirt and pollution and so forth. But the moon rays soothing afflictions, fever pangs, that's maybe a bit more of an Indian kind of, you know, image. You know, in the hot country like India, the moon is seen as the rays of the moon are seen as cool. Yeah, the rays of the sun are burning hot, especially in India, of course. You know, and the rays of the moon are, by contrast, you know, they're seen as, or they're felt as being cool. So if somebody had a fever in India and it was like full moon time, they would put you outside, you know, so that the rays of the moon would shine on you, and then it would cool you down. That's their idea, you know, the contrast between the sun and the moon. The moon's rays are cooling. So if you get the moonlight shining on your skin, and if you've got a fever, it's going to be like a relieve your symptoms. So that's it. That's the morality then. If when the mind is feverish with too many afflictions, you know, it's too you know, excited, to you know, carried away by you know, sort of self-interest and self-cherishing, then the moon rays of morality, you know, the sort of a morality and the understanding of the benefits of morality come down and cool your sort of afflicted mind. So that's sort of, I guess, kind of an Indian idea, you know. In I guess in Tibet, they didn't really have problems about keeping cool, did they? You know, Tibet's sort of a cool country like a cool climate like in England, or worse, you know, more cold. But in India, you imagine this one coming from India about the poetic idea of the moon rays being soothing you with their coolness, because that would be very welcome in Indian climate, of course. Superb like mirror amidst the myriad beings, who all bear down to that no power can daunt, morality. So here, morality now is a great mountain, you see. Sort of, you know, it's like when your morality is firm and stable, and then it's kind of, you know, for sensitive people at least, you know, that's something that they can admire, something they're grateful for, you know, that somebody's showing a good example, like the Dalai Lama in this world, you know, is you know, own personal example of being, you know, very moral and ethical and very sensitive to the needs of others, and then his, you know, constant efforts to persuade people to be, you know, to live in the better half of themselves is a great kind of, you know, boost, isn't it? You know, it's a marvelous kind of, you know, kind of a marvelous example to have in the world, you know, to admire. We're very grateful for that, you know, because there's so much of the opposite, isn't there? There's so much sort of tension, and people are out to be like just afflicted, sort of, you know, just carry out their afflictions and gain what they want, you know, without thinking about other people in the least, or if they're thinking about other people, they're only thinking about their group, you know, their party, their community, or their, you know, their lot, their tribe or something. And everybody else is like, you know, we have to take advantage of what they've got and steal it from them, or ignore them if they're complaining, and, you know, just pay them very little wages. There's so much of you feel that, so much of that in the world, isn't there? That when somebody comes along who just practices pure morality, like His Holiness, it is like a mountain, you know, it's like something so superb that we can sort of admire and really, you know, say that's the power that, you know, moves us. So that's a kind of a marvelous image as you think of somebody like His Holiness and Tsongkhapa in his day, how he must have appeared, you know, with his great sort of teachings and his great practice of the monk's morality and so forth. Okay, and so then the noble, knowing this, adopt it well and guard it like their eyes. So they adopt the ethical guidelines of the Buddhist practice. So I've more or less talked just about, you know, avoiding the 10 non-virtuous actions, being, you know, sort of on that we call it the individual liberation type of morality, the morality of just avoiding harming others, restraining yourself from bad deeds. Yeah, but there's also the morality of the bodhisattva vehicle. You see, where you go out, it's not just a question of avoiding harming others, but it's you've got to like really do your best to see to others' welfare. So it's the morality of doing virtuous deeds, and the morality of seeing to others' welfare. So it's the bodhisattva morality isn't just the morality of refraining from the acts of killing and stealing and so forth, but it's a morality of working for the benefit of others at all times. So it's a very sort of broad-minded kind of morality. We don't just think about keeping away from negative actions, but doing as many positive actions as we can too. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. Well, I'm not getting on very fast with, am I, with my verses? I'm talking too much. At least trying to make a bit of sense of each verse. But what can we do? We haven't got so much time. Patience is a good one. The next one, forbearance, and then after that comes this diligence or joyous enthusiasm. I'll talk a little bit about patience, then we'll do a bit of meditation, because we want to have some time to think about these things in a different way too. So I think that's you don't want to hear me talking too much all the time. But patience is a very very important one. One of the perfections that we can relate to as being so important and so useful when we think of how much anger we sort of create in a day, or how much anger there is in the world, and so many of the dreadful contexts, dreadful conflicts that have marred the history of sort of our Western society. It's been full of just wars and conflict, and people unable to negotiate their differences, but they have to go to war and fight, and to conquer others and to take what they've got and make it their own. This sort of ruthless practice of it's leading us not just to have many wars between different types of human beings, but kind of destroying the world in the process, let's say. So patience, this is a very jewel of a very, very perfect quality that we can admire so much and aspire to create it within ourselves. So this is something that it's really a sort of marvelous practice. How to overcome our anger, how to overcome this negative fault. This is sort of a great thing to practice. So what can we say? Yes, patience. So there's the patience of when we just kind of put up with the harms that the people do to others, and then there's that's disregarding the harm that's done to us, and the patience of accepting suffering of all different types, because it isn't just the suffering that we feel doesn't just come from others, does it? It doesn't just come from other people, trying to take advantage and harming others, harming us, So we have all sorts of kind of sufferings in life. It doesn't just come from, the efforts of others. So there's a patient accepting of suffering of all types as necessary. I'm not saying we accept it just because it's suffering. Of course, we try to get rid of it if we can. But at the point where there's nothing we can do to avoid the suffering, then we have to learn how to be able to sort of be calm and serene and be ourselves in spite of the suffering. And then there's a patience of applying ourselves. So the third type of patience is mentioned in the text is a patience of applying ourselves to the teachings. So this is a patience of keeping studying the teachings. Yeah. So the teachings might feel quite difficult sometimes and quite complicated or quite extreme or quite sort of unclear. But there's the patience of applying ourselves to the teaching so that we can gain certainty, so that we can gain conviction, not giving up just because things are a bit complicated, you know. So of course, if it's a path of complete liberation and complete Buddhahood, it's going to be a bit subtle, and it's going to have its challenges. So there's a patience of, you know, not being daunted, not giving up when you know, trying to understand the teachings too. So that's counted as a third type of patience. So there's lots we can say about patience, you know, and there's plenty of verses from Shantideva that Tsongkhapa quotes in his Lamrim text. So maybe we can come back to patience in a bit of meditation. But we'll just read Tsongkhapa's verses for now, and then see where we go from there. So verse number 19. Forbearance, best adornment of the strong. The perfect means to bear affliction's sting. Garuda to the snake of hate opposed. Strong armor against the weapon of harsh words. So, knowing this, be trained in all ways in the armor of forbearance unsurpassed. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. So forbearance, best adornment of the strong. So even if we are strong and powerful, and we can, you know, have some, you know, power to oppose our enemies by, you know, strong means, you know, still, it's a marvelous quality of even strong people to be patient. So it's not just, oh, yeah, it's only weak people who should be patient. Those who don't have much, you know, kind of, you know, ability to, you know, sort of avoid the harms of others. We have to be patient with them. But even those who are strong and can avoid the harms of others, still, instead of just meeting a small harm with an even greater harm, you know, to sweep away your enemy, or to sort of just be victorious in conflict by aggressive means, even if you could, still, it's so much better if you can show patience, show forbearance, and sort things out without, you know, aggression, or sort of that's backed up by anger. You know, of course, it may be necessary to look a little bit wrathful, isn't it? You know, it may be necessary to look a bit, you know, angry if you're trying to deal with unruly people, or you know, children who are being naughty. You know, it may be necessary to you know, to show a sort of stern face, but underneath, you know, you are kind of you still love your children, don't you? So underneath, you are you're not really angry. You're just putting on a show, like a wrathful god, deity or something. So that's okay. But you know, to achieve your strong measures, even if you need to take strong measures, and you know, you need to be kind of quite disciplined. You know, you need to discipline others. Still, if you can do it with patience, not doing it out of anger, but doing it out of, you know, just forbearance and patience, then your actions will be more skillful and more just. You know, the person who acts out of anger overreacts. You know, and then, you know, you say harsh words and you regret them later. I needn't have said such harsh words. You know, I could have said something a little bit more gentle, but I said something, you know, that was exaggerated the situation, escalated the situation because of my anger. But if I was speaking out of patience, and even if I had strength, you know, to deal with a problem, but it's still, you are cautious, and you don't just try to deal with the problem just by authority. You know, you use reason and negotiation. And then number 2, the second line, the perfect means to bear affliction sting. Yeah, so, you know, with patience, then whenever you are afflicted, you know, wherever you are kind of, you know, tempted by your negative actions, yeah, patience is like saying, you know, keeping you mindful, you know, of what the best answer would be, and not just be carried away by by a train of, you know, thought which is just based on an affliction. So you keep your mind steady, you know, you keep your mind you know, thinking about the situation properly by, you know, the serenity of patience. And then when you are afflicted by, you know, other things such as, you know, physical problems, suffering, and you know, kind of an injury, and kind of, you know, people's misbehavior towards you, stealing what you possess, and you know, with patience, you know, you keep it all in perspective. You know? All the good things I have in this life, that I'm going to lose them anyway at death. You know, all those things that you know, I'm so upset if people steal them. You know, well, I'm going to lose them anyway when I die. So, you know, I might as well give them away. And if people take them, then I might as well just try to keep an even balanced mind about it. You know, all things are impermanent. You know, I'm going to be parted even from my precious body. You know, so. So if people abuse me and steal things from me, then, you know, I can keep patience by the sort of skillful thoughts such as Shantideva and Tsongkhapa suggest. And then Garuda to the snake of hate oppose. So a Garuda is a kind of bird, yes? I guess it's a mythical type of bird. There are many birds that do attack snakes and make a meal of a snake. You know, there are certain birds that are capable of, you know, making snake their prey. I mean, in India, we have the secretary bird, which is a kind of a tall, long-legged bird, you know, and they kind of, you know, they're supposed to be able to, you know, sort of attack snakes, kill them, and eat them. But this one, the Garuda, is a bird that specializes in destroying snakes, but I guess it's a bit more mythical. And you know, the snake of anger is what it's good at opposing. You see, so Garuda is the patience, which is, you know, this is your antidote to anger. So your antidote to hatred. So you learn about patience, and this counters the foe of anger. So that's your real enemy, you see, not the external enemy, your own sort of afflicted mind of anger. And the Garuda is the patience who overcomes that state of anger. And then strong armor against the weapon of harsh words. Yes, so your patience enables you to put up with people saying nasty things about you. They can't hurt your body, so they're just words. So why, you know, no need to get too excited, no need to get too offended. Patience is the armor which enables you to sort of put up with the, you know, attacks of people's nasty words about you. So, knowing this, be trained in all ways in the armor of forbearance, unsurpassed. I too, a yogi, practice in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. Okay, well, I've only got through 4 verses, but we've only got through 3 verses. Oh dear. Well, but I don't think I should talk for too long. I mean, have you got any questions at this stage, or we do a bit of meditation? So very welcome to.
I have a potential question if no one else does.
Yeah, well, we've only got 20 minutes before break time, so maybe you keep your question.
Yeah, so afterwards, yeah.
Unless it's urgent.
No.
Anybody else, Jason? I would have allowed a question, but because it's you, I just tell you to keep quiet. No. Yeah, so well, let's do a bit of meditation then on giving. Just reinforcing what we've said, and, you know, try to extend it a bit. Just a change of activity, at least. So just a few moments of breathing meditation. Just enjoy being together in our virtual space, our Zoom room. Give each other, you know, the contact of, you know, we're cut off by confinement or restrictions, but we can share space mentally and just concentrate on calm mind just by simple breathing exercise. So just watch the breath going in and out of the body at the nostril, just for one round of a few breaths. So now let's just do a very quick sort of refuge bodhicitta type of way of getting close to the Buddhas, getting close to their inspiration now. So we can visualize Buddha Shakyamuni or the Buddhas in the first opening verses. There's Manjushri, Maitreya, and then there's the great beings of the Indian tradition, Asanga, Nagarjuna, and Atisha, who brought all these magnificent teachings to Tibet. And the Tsongkhapa, of course, himself, and then there's Dalai Lama, the people who bring these teachings all the way into the present, into the Western world, and with such skill and brilliance. So these are our objects of refuge: Buddha, and the Sangha, and the gurus, and then the sort of supreme teaching that they give, sort of the ultimate refuge of the Dharma. So we immerse our minds in, welcoming these beings, welcoming their presence, becoming alive to their presence before us. So much suffering and conflict in the world. So our method to deal with this is, the Buddhist method, the inner turn, looking within to perfect our own, the qualities that it's possible to be perfect on this human basis. So we're not interested in aggression. We're not interested in worldly power, or not even in the worldly delights of the beauties of the world. Not this moment. Now we want to go for the beauties of full enlightenment. This is our long-term solution. Yes, we are tired of samsara. We would like a rest in nirvana, but we are not just going for our own solitary nirvana. Let's aspire to the fullness, the completeness of the joy of perfect Buddhahood, where we're fully empowered to work for the benefit of others. So generating the bodhicitta mind. So the Buddhas bless us then. Buddhas send their energy of white, pure energy, sort of cleansing and purifying us. And the golden energy, awakening up our good qualities, awakening up our ability to make progress on the path, suppressing our negative karma tendencies a bit, and just giving a blessing so that our good side of us can ripen up, so that showers with the inspiring energy. So that Buddha energy comes, all the way down through our whole body, through our mind, refreshing us, and it gives us a glow at our heart. So we have this white or golden white glow at our hearts. And that's our Buddha nature awakening. We've got the capacity to become Buddha. Our minds can, through, the series of, progressive improvements, become the mind of a Buddha. We can be, we can our mind can sort of enter into the state of becoming the Dharmakaya. The wisdom body of the Buddha, the wisdom Dharma body, the wisdom truth body of the Buddha. And then the emptiness of that mind will be the other half of the Dharmakaya, the sort of nature body. And then we want the ability to be, perfectly sort of communicative and helpful to others. We need the form bodies too, we can emanate as the emanation body, or as be in the pure land of the high realms as the enjoyment body, giving teachings to high bodhisattvas, whatever is needed, whatever kind of appearance is needed for the benefit of others. We can appear like that effortlessly. So we reach the highest Buddha ground, and we have the love and the skill and the wisdom. So we develop the seed of that, the Buddha nature of us, this awakening in our heart with this glow of white and gold energy. Then we have, great compassion. So that's the wish. We look around at all sentient beings in samsara, the wish that they could be free from suffering. So this is, the beginnings of bodhicitta. So the first Buddha nature expression in this great compassion. How wonderful if all sentient beings could be free from all their sufferings. And then the bodhicitta view, I must have become a Buddha in order to help all those beings be free from their suffering. So what is the perfection of giving then? So the motivated by a bodhicitta, we train in the 6 perfections. And the first one, perfection of giving. Well, as a bodhisattva, we try to do many actions of body and speech, of course, to work the welfare of others. But the actual perfection of giving is the mind that is, completely willing to give away everything that we possess. Even our bodies, all our possessions. It's not something that's possible for us now, but, when somebody gets, the full, mature kind of a bodhisattva powers, they're able to give away whatever is needed. They will have, through the practice of giving in the past, they may well have many resources that can give away, many capacities to help others, many, many accumulations of, places where they can get things from that people need. And even the merits, even their own virtues, even the virtues that they acquire, the merits they acquire from the act of giving, they would quite happy to give those away too. So that's the fully perfected mind of giving. That just there's no reservation, no thinking, oh, I must keep this for myself. The sense of giving is supreme. So let's just try to generate that mind. It's only like theoretical at the moment. We weren't capable of doing that. But, the more we think about it and practice it, then, this is a way that we can, move towards having that, skill and ability. The more generous I can be in this life, then the more resources in the future with which I'll be able to help sentient beings all the more. My life here on this earth is very short. Everything is going to be taken away from me by impermanence anyway, even my own body. What's going to help me at the time of death? It's not having a lot of money stored away somewhere under my bed. It's not having lots of nice possessions or big house or all those things. At the time of death, they're all meaningless. It's better that I give away as much as I can before I die. Then I have the benefit of giving away, and I have the benefit of going to death with a Dharma mind that's achieved some virtuous acts. So instead of waiting, to be part of my stuff when I die, I'll give as much as I can away now. With virtuous mind, a generous mind of giving. And that's the best way to use my wealth. Wealth kept under the bed is doing nothing, absolutely nothing. Wealth I just spend on myself, well, that's benefiting one person. But if I give my wealth away and it benefits so many others, that's wealth that's really doing its job. That's wealth that's really worth, that's really worth, that's what we call wealth when it benefits people, benefits other creatures, does something for itself. That's when it's performing its function. So if I have any wealth to give away, I should give. And even if I don't have much wealth, if I don't have much to give away anyway, and I'm not at the stage where I can give away certain things because I must have somewhere to live. I must have, some way of looking after myself. So we're not ready to, be totally generous and, totally skillful in giving. But, imaginatively, or even if we're very poor, imaginatively we can give away. So it's a good practice just to imagine giving away many things. And then in the future, you will find your mind becoming more generous. Naturally, you'll be more able to do it because, you practiced sort of imaginatively before. So you think of all your possessions, all your body, all your good things, all your wealth, everything you hold dear. Imagine it all, it's transformed into light. And it goes out to all beings, throughout the universe. The ray of light goes out to all beings, whatever realm they're in, whatever planet they're on, whatever galaxy, whatever state of sort of psychological, need or whatever sort of progress they've still got to make. You're going to give them what they need. So if they're in the very worst of states, like in the hell realm, or in some deep psychological trouble, like they've gone crazy, or they're really in the worst of suffering you can imagine in cyclic existence, you give them what they need, yeah. So the hell realm being gets the one in the hell realm gets the cooling waters and cooling winds, and all the the relief from the torturous heat. The one in the cold hells gets warmth and the comfort of being allowing their body at last to have some warmth flowing through it. The person who's crazy is like relieved of their whatever karmic ripening has led to that that state of madness, or they get the right medicine to make their minds more calm, the right understanding to sort their problems out. And those who are like hungry ghosts, or human beings or other animal creatures are all having the same problems as a human, as a hungry ghost, of great hunger and thirst. They receive food, drink, nourishment, and their karmic obscurations of being unable to enjoy that food are cleared away, cleansed away, relieved, so that they have at last relief from the tortures of their physical needs. And those who are in hospital who are sick, of course, you know, they get the cures they need, or the operations they need, or the money they need to pay for their treatments. And those who are, you know, fit and well, reasonably speaking, you know, they get the Dharma teachings they need, or the resources they need to be able to follow the Dharma teachings that will benefit them, having, you know, receptivity to them. Those who don't have the receptivity become more drawn towards the good qualities, at least. They get drawn towards the good qualities of peace, kindness, non-violence, all through, you know, the power of your the light rays that you send out to them across the universe if necessary. So that all beings dwell in sort of comfort, in peace, and in hope through the power of your generosity. So you try to have that unrestricted, unreserved spirit of generosity, that is the perfection of generosity that bodhisattvas are training in. So just imagine that you are reached that level of generosity, completely free of any self-cherishing. Finally, we can very quickly make offerings to the Buddhas, all the Bodhisattvas too. They've gone beyond, the ones who've gone beyond kind of needing our help really, but still we make offerings to show our respect and our wish to make a connection with the teachings, wishing for the inspiration. So we make offerings to the Buddhas too, 3 jewels. So they also feel extra bliss and delight, and then bless us. Very pleased with our meditation. So then we dedicate our merits to becoming, bodhisattvas, accomplishing these mighty bodhisattva deeds. So thank you very much. So I have to stop there. But we take a tea break now. So we see you in half an hour. So that's, by my clock, that's about just after 12:30, a little bit after 12:30. So it's 11 for you, I think.
11:30, yeah.
Just after 11:30. So refreshment time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask about forbearance or patience.
Yeah.
Because I think often when we're trying to practice patience, we actually develop resentment or sulking, or if on a really bad day, a sort of mild or sometimes serious depression. Depressed minds can arise. So people who think they're being good Buddhists and practicing patience can actually, I think, not be practicing patience. We must be practicing something else. So what do you advise? I mean, in a way, I suppose I'm saying what's the most helpful aspect of mind training for this, or what do you advise?
Well, I think it's definitely good to be patient, even if it's difficult, because the alternative is, getting cross with people and, exchanging nasty words and things. So I think that's worse. And even for your own health, they say, if you do get angry, that's worse for your blood pressure or, your whatever it is that they look at. I mean, you might think, oh, well, bottling up your anger, that will increase your blood pressure. But they say when you let it out and, do have a fit of temper, that is actually kind of, sort of more stressful on your health. So patience is better if you can manage it, but even if it's difficult. But yeah, I mean, the bodhisattva type of patience, they're not. What feelings did you mention? Being depressed or being
Resentful, sulking.
Yeah, sulking. Yeah. Well, that's not really the practice of patience. Yeah, because patience is you remain serene. That's the idea, isn't it? You remain kind of calm and balanced. So that's the sort of the thing you got to aim at. So there's lots of reasons why you can think of anger as being unhelpful, and I was going to give some of those in meditation, which we'll have later on in this session.
Can I ask about patience as well? I suppose it's. I mean, I'm guessing like Jill at the moment is having to be patient with her own situation.
Yes.
Whether it's a physical illness or a mental state of mind or whatever. That sort of patience. Well, is patience the right word to describe that? That sort of, or is it a practice trying to sort of come to, if you're in a particular state, trying to actually come to some sort of accommodation of it rather than trying to sort of, I don't know, fight it off or do something else?
Well, the Tibetans have got these divisions of patience, haven't they? Like, there's one of like when your enemies harm you, then in harm inflicted by others, or what you perceive as harm, you remain indifferent. You know, you remain, you know, you doesn't disturb the balance of your mind. And then there's, of course, the suffering that can come that's not from enemies, such as an illness. That's you know, people are just trying to do the best for you by giving the injection, and it works for most people. So that's just how you put up with that kind of suffering. Forbearance, I don't know if it covers it better than patience, but it's keeping your balance of mind, keeping your calmness in spite of you know, these problems. And then the other form of patience was being patient in working at studying, understanding the teachings, even if they're a bit difficult, you see. So that's kind of another kind of patience. So if you use the word patience very broadly, it can cover all those things. But yeah. So how do you do it? Yeah, well, that's what you know, Branwen is asking for some ideas. So I think one thing you can think of is, you know, where does the problem come from in the first place? And if you understand the workings of karma, you say, oh, well, you know, I put out harm to others in the past, so now that harm's coming back to me, whether it's other people inflicting it on you or you're just ill or something. Yeah. So the suffering always has a cause. Suffering doesn't arise causelessly. And, you know, why does the suffering come to me and not somebody else? You know, why do I have to put up with this, you know, 12 days of problems having had the injection and not somebody else? Well, you know, you created some sort of karmic misdeed in the past, previous life, probably, could be earlier in this life. And then there's ripening back up on you in the sense that the suffering you put out comes back to you. So you can, when another person is involved, you can sort of avoid blaming them so much, you know. So, well, I contributed to it by my past negative actions, so I shouldn't blame the whole, it's not all your fault, you know. In the end, you know, it's a manifestation of my own imperfection. It's coming back to me, you know. And then that can be a teaching, you see. So in future, you see, it is painful to have to suffer these insults or these, you know, harsh treatment or, you know, this illness. Therefore, it reminds me that in the future I must, when I get a chance, I must cleanse my negative actions, the ones I've already done, and take very much greater care not to collect any more in the future. Sort of, you know, clean up my act a bit. So that's one way of looking at it. You know, where does the suffering actually come from in the end? Yeah. So the suffering you receive comes from suffering you previously put out into the world yourself. So that's one way to think. And if you are patient, you know, in the future, it's still staying on the theme of, you know, future lives and everything, Buddhist sort of way of looking at things, then, you know, practice of patience in this world leads to good fortune in the future. You know, like it leads to a circle of friends, circle of supporters in future lives, or it leads to having a handsome appearance of people who can trust you, people who can relate to you, kind of, you know, sort of a level when you're meeting people and, you know, they're kind of, you know, kind of relating to you, maybe sort of, you know, your body language and everything. So that patience in this life leads to those advantages in future lives of more, you know, of good conditions, you know, good relations with others. You work with others, people will trust you, and you know, people don't let you down, because, you know, those are the ripening effects of patience in this life. Whereas the disadvantages of anger in the future rebirths is that, you know, anger leads us to the opposite of those. Anger leads to, you know, unskillful actions, which you know, lead you down to the lower realms. Because, you know, unskillful actions will be actions where you are harming others. They've harmed you, so you harm them back. You know, they shout at you, so you shout at them back. So you are indulging in, you know, negative actions of harsh speech and so forth, or worse. You know, and that's going to lead you to unfortunate rebirth, or, you know, that has its repercussions. Those things don't get lost. So that's definitely, you know, anger is like the worst of afflictions, in the sense of, you know, where it ends up in, you know, the sort of the karmic ripening effects. And they say anger destroys your virtue. You see, you are kind of, you have a good store of virtue, you've done some virtuous actions. Anger weakens its power to ripen up. You know, it's a kind of a harmful force for you. You see, so it's not something you want to do. So patience is much better. But of course, you know, patience with suffering, you know, and patience with, like Bran was saying, with somebody who's I don't know why she's saying she was, you know, trying to control her anger. I'm not sure what the circumstances where she's getting angry, but it's often with other people, isn't it? Yeah. So you have to try and you have to see where the other person's coming from. You know, I was thinking of today. I was going to, though, I've got to talk about patience and say a little bit. And you know, I was thinking of my mother. And she was, when she was very old, I was looking after her for a few years, a couple of years. And then, you know, she's had really bad lungs. She'd had pneumonia and stuff, but she was an inveterate smoker, you know, so she was like smoking, and she had these terrible lungs. So I used to get really cross with her for smoking, you see. But was I right? You know, of course, smoking is a bad habit. And for somebody whose lungs as weak as hers, you know, you couldn't imagine a more you know, more kind of foolish thing to do, sort of thing, you know. But was I right to get angry? You know, I didn't think about getting angry. I just sort of was cross and say you mustn't smoke and stuff like that, because I was the one main carer. You know, I was the person who was looking after and giving her pills and kind of, you know, cooking her food towards the end and everything. So I sort of felt I had a right to say something. But you know, if you think about getting angry with somebody, you've got to blank off the dependent arising of the situation. That's my catchword lately. In order to get angry with somebody, you have to blank off the dependent arising of the situation. Dependent arising, you know, where is she coming from? Why is she doing what she's doing? You know, and you say, well, don't think about that. You just see she's a naughty old woman, or an old woman who's misbehaving, or an old woman who's you know, doing things against her own interest, like an addiction, you see. So if you just see her like that, some sort of is a bit pathetic and a bit, you know, not up to a proper standard of behavior, and you feel you're superior because you are, you know what's healthy and what isn't, and you don't waste your money on cigarettes, you know. And so you feel you can criticize because you're from some superior moral position or something. But if you think really, well, what is my mother's predicament? Then, you know, if you saw the total dependent arising of the situation, yeah, not just, oh, she's some old woman who's like misbehaving and doesn't know how to look after herself, and therefore you can criticize because she's, you know, sort of lower than she should be and lower than you. But if the dependent arisen nature of the situation is something different, isn't it? If you see the whole picture, why is she smoking? You know, it's like she's got her own compulsions, and you can resist those compulsions because you are, you know, strong and young or something. But for her to resist them is a different matter. I don't know, you know. But then addictions are always you know, it's always like it'd be much better not to be addicted to tobacco. But for those people who are, it's no good just sort of criticizing them, and especially when they're so old. You know, she had so few pleasures left in life, and her joints were very weak, so she couldn't go out of the house hardly, or she could go in a wheelchair. But I think she hated that because it was like, you know, she just looked so weak and pathetic. You know, she didn't want to go out, just out of some kind of misplaced pride about, oh, you know, people are just thinking of me as some sort of, you know, decrepit old thing in a wheelchair. But you know, at least you'd get some fresh air, wouldn't you? You know, so she had her own sensitivities, and yeah, and she liked to drink and whiskey as well. But you could see how that cheered her up when she drank a whiskey. You know, it would lift her, because she had so many. You know, she had a bad joint in a bad hip joint, but they weren't going to operate because she's too old. You know, they weren't going to give her a new hip. She'd had one new hip. The other one was, you know, very, very, very painful. You could hear it clicking when she was moving because it was so bad. But they weren't going to operate because she's over 90 years old, and you know, she's sort of past it. So she had a lot of troubles to put up with, and she couldn't sleep at night properly, you know, because of the pain, or because she just, you know, she was so old or something. So she'd sit up late smoking. But that was just the way of getting by in life, you know. So I think it was wrong to get angry with it, because if you understood the whole situation, then that's how, you know, you won't get angry. Angry is when you misread the situation. Angry is when you think, yeah, well, I've got it. This is my right. I want this, you know, and the other person's opposing me, and you're not kind of fully comprehending what the situation is. And if you do, then you won't get angry. You might have to do things and be skillful and work things out. I'm not saying you just don't do anything, but you always do things better if you don't shout at people. That's my idea, you know. And okay, then you get, oh, I'm resentful, I've got to hide my anger, and you know, and all this sort of thing. But you know, it's you got to be skillful, more skillful than that. You know, if there's something you can do about the situation, then you do it. You don't have to get angry about it. And if there's nothing you can do about it, then okay, well, that person's mind's all disturbed. They're shouting at me. It doesn't mean that my mind has to get all disturbed. I don't have to shout back at them. You know, my boss is always shouting at me, but that's his problem, you know, that he's so angry. Doesn't mean I have to get angry just to, you know, as a reaction. I can remain calm and be sorry for him that he's such an angry, you know, aggressive personality, and have some sympathy for him. And even like those Tibetan prisoners in the Chinese prison you read about in the days of, you know, torture and confinement by the Chinese, which is still going on, of course. But you know, you remember reading these stories about the people say, well, you know, the more they punished the prisoners, you know, the really great ones amongst the prisoners, the real people who practice the Dharma, the more they would feel compassion for their jailers, you know, because the jailers are doing so many negative actions. The jailers are just full of hate, and they've got to be full of, you know, really nastiness to be able to torture the prisoners. So the prisoner who was like getting all the torture, when he has a chance to think, you know, and pray, he would be praying for his jailers, because they were you know, just building up so much nastiness and pollution in their minds that the prisoner, even though he was receiving all the bad treatment, he would be like, you know, developing more compassion for the jailers, because they were just messing their minds up so badly. So that's just a few ideas.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's lots to think about that, and you know, and the best place to go is Shantideva. You know, his arguments about anger are so kind of, you know, clever that you know, he really sort of gives patience a great boost. So maybe we can do some of those in meditation. In a minute, look at a couple of verses. Anyway, that's what I was thinking about. Shall we move on? We've got to get through these last verses now, so better keep going, really. But chance for more questions maybe later. So we can come back to patience then in meditation, but we'll go on now to diligence. Sometimes you see it translated as enthusiastic effort or perseverance, or, you know, different translations to this one, because it has the idea of, you know, strong stamina, where you keep going, you don't give up easily. But it also has the idea, the Tibetan word, of great joy too. So it's not just like you know, stubborn, hard kind of, you know, effort without respite, but it is also like supposed to be very joyful. You know, you're very joyful kind of commitment, a joyful sort of enthusiasm. But finding one word for all that in English is a bit different, bit difficult. The word diligence doesn't just really convey that joyfulness, but what to do. So, attired with steady, ceaseless diligence, your insights and your scriptural knowledge grow, wax like the moon, your acts all purposeful, whatever work succeeds as you intend. The conqueror children, knowing this, cut off all laziness with forceful diligence. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. Yeah, so the opposite of the diligence one is laziness, of course. So you can have different kinds of laziness, just sort of like they make the word patience, cover over quite a few different situations. Then this diligence, it's like there's one about just being lazy. Oh, I'll do this. You keep putting things off, just, oh, I'm not ready to do that. So it'll be all right if you do it tomorrow, or I'll do it another day. Kind of laziness, procrastination. So that's the one kind of bad habit that diligence is, the antidote for. And the other one we can talk about is distraction. So it's not so much you are just being lazy, doing nothing and putting your Dharma practice off, but you are just going off on sidetracks, and your mind is quite active, but it won't stay on the Dharma. You just want to go off to more kind of distracting pursuits that are more superficially pleasurable or something. So that is like diligence to overcome your temptation to be distracted and to be sort of just find excuses to do something easier instead of your Dharma practice, something more kind of just superficially interesting. Then the other type of laziness that we're warned about is laziness of feeling you're inadequate. Oh, I can't do it. I'm not sort of I'm only a simple person or something like this. I'm only a kind of person who can't understand all these complicated things, and so you don't make any effort at all because you just feel your effort will be weak. But any effort is worthwhile. You see, it's like whatever level you're at, you can always sort of improve a bit to get on, and to get some sort of something going for yourself and a benefit for others. So just feeling you're inadequate, that can be another form of laziness too. Just making excuses that you're not capable of it. Doing good Dharma practice or something. So those are the things that our enthusiastic effort is supposed to overcome. So let's see what Tsongkhapa says about it then. Attired with steady, ceaseless diligence. So he's thinking of it as a costume or something, or kind of armor or something like a battle dress or something that you wear. So this is a very good sort of means to accomplish your aims then. Your insights and your scriptural knowledge grow. Yes, so when you are diligent in your studies, when you do have stamina, when you do your meditations regularly and sort of take the trouble over them, and then the rewards come. That it's your progress is like the swelling moon, and so that it is what you put in, you'll get out. There's no doubt about that. So your diligence is what you need to keep on going until you do get some results. Your acts all purposeful. Whatever work succeeds as you intend. So yes, with the proper diligence and a kind of strategy, then you make your life meaningful, and your work can be completed. So it's no good just wanting to do the work and doing it in a half-hearted way. With the right kind of diligence, then you succeed as you intend. And the conqueror children, knowing this, cut off all laziness with forceful diligence. So that's how the bodhisattvas practice. And so there is great benefit from being able to be diligent like this. And I think the bodhisattva, when they have this, Buddha inspiration, this inspiration to get to Buddhahood, the really, sort of full level, then you see people, their energy is really increased. They're bringing their force of their minds together in a very, sort of an enthusiastic way, and it's impressive. Like the bodhisattva, bodhicitta motivation can make you more energetic like this. It's interesting to see. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. in my own memory and other people I've talked to when we're doing our studies in Tibetan monasteries, there were some guys, really, really clever, really like brilliant, and they seem to have such good Dharma imprints, and they're like really like good advance very quickly in their studies, and their classmates, and really good in debate, and they really knew how to understand the tricky points, and challenge others with to understand them as well. So there were these people like that. But it sometimes happens that the ones who are really intelligent or really brilliant, their minds are so kind of so sharp or something, or so that just studying the Dharma isn't enough for them, and so they do get distracted, and they want to study other things as well, or they want to find out about the world, the big outside world. They don't, and so they end up getting sort of carried away by their interests, and leaving the monastery and disrobing and everything. Whereas the people who are like they're just the steady guys, the steady eddies, the people who they don't look brilliant, but they have the stamina. You see, they keep going. So they're different kind of guys. So that they're the ones that make it all the way to the end, because the Geshe studies program is a bit long, isn't it? You have to spend 17 years, 20 years to get your Geshe degree. So it's no good just about being really flashy like a fancy firework, and then after a few seconds, or a few years, you're sort of ready for something else. You want to sort of go off and try something else. To do the studies properly, you've got to keep going, and have that stamina, have that diligence, and make it all the way. Because just flashy brilliance that doesn't last for long is not going to get you there. So the guys with the steady ones are kind of more the ones who sort of go all the way to the Geshe degree. Okay, so well, that's number 20 then. Now the last few verses are on concentration and wisdom. So these are kind of number 5 and number 6 of the 6 perfections. These are the last two, and obviously where you need a lot of mental training. Well, the others need training too, but these two are like especially like challenging. Let's say lay people who are busy with families, or have other lots of responsibilities in the world, they can practice generosity, and they can do practice of keeping good ethical behavior, and there will always be plenty of chances to practice patience. But these two of concentration and wisdom, maybe not so much for people who have busy lives otherwise. I'm not saying we shouldn't. Of course, people should study and try, but it's like more of a sort of a deeper investigation, or a kind of a harder training to do the last two perfections. So a bit more of a challenge, like I say. And here in the Nalanda Monastery, there's I'm teaching the Lamrim of Tsongkhapa, his long presentation of Lamrim in 3 volumes in English. So I'm teaching the first 2 books here, but in the autumn, then our abbot Geshe Jambul, he will come back, and he will be teaching these 2 perfections: the perfection of concentration and perfection of wisdom, from the autumn of this year onwards, and for the whole of next year. So that's the last volume of the Lamrim Chenmo, the last volume of this great stages of the great treatise on the stages of the path. You see, he'll be giving the very detailed sort of overview of these last 2 perfections. So that'll be very good to able to enjoy. Anyway, so first of all, you look at each concentration individually, then you see how each of the last 2 perfections individually, then we see how they join together, how you've got to practice them in union. So don't know how much time we have to really discuss things like emptiness today, but we've had a little sort of discussions, or meetings about it over Zoom with I did a course on dependent arising with for Jill with Lamrim Wales not long ago, and so forth. So we have tried to talk about these things a little bit before. Anyway, verse number 21. Then concentration, sovereign o'er the mind, when placed like mirror, never wavering, sent forth, it takes up virtuous objects all. To body, mind, great bliss of pliancy brings. Great yogis, knowing this, resort to it, to quell the foe distraction at all times. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. So here we're talking, the ideal is like single pointer concentration. So you can really focus your mind on one object, stably, without too much effort, for a long time, as long as you want. So that sounds like an interesting idea, but when you try it, you quickly find that your mind is all over the place. Your mind won't stay on one object. Of course, you can do great studies, you can achieve great tasks, and you can whatever you've got to do, design a bridge, or do a high pressure job. I'd be a headmaster in a school where there's lots of people pressurizing you or whatever, and then whatever you can do these jobs like with our ordinary kind of state of mind, you can achieve great things. That's very true. But what they're talking about here is this very single pointed, concentrated state of mind, which is very different from ordinary worldly abilities to concentrate and do a job, or see through a big project, or be inspired and compose some work of literature. This is very sort of just a very single-minded, like calm kind of focused state of mind, which is out of the ordinary in the world. So usually it takes quite a lot of practice in very sort of quiet location, with very good instruction from, sort of an accomplished master who can keep an eye on you and show you where you're going wrong. So the Tibetans in exile have even, have their places where this is, this tradition of, mental development, of concentration, is carried on. But in the monasteries I went to, it wasn't something that was it wasn't part of the curriculum that all the monks sat there and meditated together, from 6 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, just trying to develop a sort of concentrated state of mind in silence. So it wasn't, our monasteries were always about philosophy. Our studies were all about, debating and inquiring, trying to get the analytical, correct view of emptiness. That's a sixth kind of perfection. So that was our Galupa training, that under the inspiration of Tsongkhapa's great teachings on emptiness, unraveling, the sort of, the mysterious verses of Nagarjuna, and going all the way back to the Buddha. What did he really mean by ultimate truth? All these different competing opinions about, what ultimate truth actually means, and Tsongkhapa giving a brilliant exposition and being really, a marvelous sort of a scholar who presents things very convincingly. But you need to study a lot to understand his view. It's not like the type of approach where you just sit there and it comes to you eventually through calming your mind down. You've got to do a lot of analysis and investigation. So that's what our Galupa program of studies is more kind of focused on. That kind of can we understand emptiness in the same way that Tsongkhapa did? And anybody wanting to do the concentration practice, the simple steadying of the mind and kind of simple kind of approaching to the mind of serenity, of calm abiding, where it isn't the mind isn't sort of analyzing great trains of reasoning, but just able to stay in an object peacefully and like without distraction for as long as needed. That time of build-up of concentration, I mean, if you could do it, then people admired it very much. But they didn't sit there in the monastery having practice sessions, So they would give you the instructions, just as Tsongkhapa gives them in his great treatise on the stages to the path of enlightenment. He gives the instructions very clearly. But in our school, we didn't sit there and study them and kind of try to achieve those states of concentration. And I must say that since I've finished my studies, I've never really had a chance, or never found a chance, or made a chance in order to practice that type of concentration myself. I don't imagine I'll be very good at it, but That's maybe the laziness of procrastination, or the laziness of not thinking I'm inadequate. I don't know. But anyway, this is the first, you know, this is the challenge. Can you achieve this single point of concentration? And you know, how many people try, and of those who try, how many succeed? I don't know. You know, I'm not sort of well able to evaluate that. But I don't think it's easy. So there are many people who don't get to the single point of concentration, even though they try quite a lot. But, you know, whatever level of concentration they do achieve, I'm sure that's very useful. It's not like they're wasting their time just because they can't get to this sort of really, you know, level of, you know, sort of this sort of, you know, this single point of concentration, kind of effortlessly able to keep the mind on one object for, you know, a reasonable length of time. So, you know, that to have that level of control is probably quite rare. But if you have a lesser level, then I'm sure it's still useful in when you are trying to meditate. I'm sure it's a very great advantage. So when you've got this level of control, then you really feel you are in command of your mind. Then you see, I mean, me, when I'm trying to sort of just sit down and concentrate on something, and even if it's just sort of, you know, thinking about refuge, or, you know, thinking about the faults of samsara, then your mind wanders off, doesn't it? You might, you keep after bringing it back. Of course you can bring it back, you know, you can, oh, my mind's wandered off and I'm bringing it back to the subject now, let me think a little bit more about this. Of course you can do that, but it is, you know, it's a bit kind of, you know, it's not very impressive when your mind does keep jumping off onto other subjects all the time. It's a bit kind of amazing that the mind is so easily, you know, like it loses its thread and has to go back and, you know, pull it back and start again, sort of thing. It happens a bit too often, really, doesn't it? Yeah. And, you know, you can go off into incitement, you know, you're distracted onto some other object and you want to start thinking about that, look at your mobile phone. Or you can be like a dullness and a sleepiness, you know, a sluggishness. That's the other way to go, dullness. Excitement or dullness, you know, so you're supposed to be trying to think carefully about this, you know, bodhicitta motivation or patience or something, and get some idea about it. But, you know, you just start feeling sleepy and you can't really keep your, you know, the brightness of the object before you. It just starts to get dull, and, you know, you're not necessarily slipping off the object, but you're not concentrating on it enough for it to be, you know, you just get duller and duller. But if you have got concentration, then it's like sovereign over the mind. Yes, you know, you really got command over your mind then. And then you can, when you place your mind on the object, then it will stay there, like Meru, Mount Meru, the mountain that was supposed to be in the middle of the universe, according to some of these people who are writing about ancient cosmology. Mount Meru, the middle of the universe, sort of, and all the other, you know, places were just tiny and small in comparison to this huge mountain in the middle there. So like a great mountain, like Mount Everest, Mount Meru, never wavering. So that's if you place your mind on an object, it's like that. It just stays stably, single-pointedly. And then, you know, if you place your mind on a virtuous object, you can easily take in the good qualities of other virtuous objects. If you send it out to look at other objects, then, you know, it can sort of, you know, connect with them very well, because it's got of course, you've got this concentration. You can be very appreciative of whatever the qualities of the object. And then to body, mind, great bliss of pliancy brings. And this high levels of concentration we're talking about here are very blissful, they say, you know, that they bring a very good feeling in the mind, a very, very great feeling of, you know, of sort of, you know, thrill or something, you know, because the energy of the mind comes together in a sort of very powerful way. And there's two types of this pliancy. One is the pliancy of the body, pliancy of mind, you know, so they're a great feeling of bliss or usability, serviceability of your faculties then, because you know, your mind is in such a sort of, you know, well tuned up state, you know, that your body feels very light and you don't need to eat much food or whatever. And you know, you when you meditate and you get these levels of concentration, it can be very blissful, can be very sort of, you know, entrancing, which is a bit of a danger, you know, if people who are meditating, they think they're on the Buddhist path, but they get to these levels of concentration, then they can be carried away by that, as if it's so such a pleasurable feeling, you see. So you're supposed to be thinking about how you can get out of samsara, and these states of concentration are just states within samsara. So you haven't got over your self-grasping. You haven't cut you're not damaging your sort of attachment to samsara. You're not cutting you through to realizing selflessness, but you've just got this very concentrated state of mind, which is very blissful, very peaceful, and very, amazing. And you think, oh well, at this point my self-grasping is very slight, because I'm just sort of in such a superb state of concentration. So you tend to think of that state of concentration as being something you want to remain in. So it's like, but that's just another attachment to a different side of psychic existence, you see. So it is a very blissful experience, but the Buddhist meditator has to keep remembering impermanence and keep remembering the faults of samsara, even though that is a very sort of a beautiful place of samsara and beautiful feelings. Still, the meditator has to think, yeah, but that's only like one part of samsara, and if I'm not if I don't get out of samsara, I will be easily reborn from the state of bliss back into one of the lesser and lower or more unpleasant realms of samsara. So you're not out of samsara there, so you've got to keep going. This is just can be a distraction, this the bliss of concentration, so you have to be careful about it anyway. But the concentration of that you can achieve with the mind is must be really amazing. For somebody in me can't even dream how it would be like. But somebody's really on the path like Tom Carper, they develop this single point of concentration and use it to investigate the aspects of the path. So very great advantage for them. So great yogis, knowing this, resort to it to quell the foe distraction at all times. They keep their mind concentrate on their object. And that's such a great advantage. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. Yeah, so let's keep going. So that's concentration. The wisdom. So this is where we are, onto the sixth perfection now. I'm talking about the two, wisdom and concentration, separately at the moment. So wisdom is that the ultimate view, you see. Of course, there's many kinds of wisdom. Wisdom understanding, the workings of karma. Wisdom understanding the workings of the four truths, how they all fit together. Wisdom, understanding, the benefits of compassion or the benefits of patience. Sure. But really, the wisdom that's really is the most important one is this ultimate wisdom, seeing how self-grasping is keeping us in cyclic existence. Self-grasping, like grasping in the self to exist in a way it doesn't exist, this false misunderstanding of the way we are, building this sort of false kind of ego, or whatever you want to call it, false sense of self. It's on that basis that we are clinging to samsara. It's on that basis that we're running around looking for happiness in the wrong places, just trying to have a fulfillment in samsara, which is not possible. But, our self-grasping is like a bit neurotic and gets these accompany us like attachment and aversion and hatred and anger, gets them all going because they all get going on the basis of this misunderstanding of the way we exist. Really, we should think, understand suchness, understand selflessness, and to say, well, we see. So then you can see these afflictive minds of attachment and anger and aggression and so forth are all working on a very fundamentally misunderstanding of the way we exist. So you can really release from all those afflictions. So to realize this wisdom, realizing selflessness is very profound. It's very it's so amazingly different from any other object you've realized before. You see, there's no kind of there's no existing from the side of the object whatsoever. When you look for the object on the side of the object, you never find it. So there's such an amazing realization. So there's nothing there by way of the object's own power. This inherent or intrinsic kind of power of an object to exist is just an illusion. Things appear to us exist like that, but that's a false appearance. When you understand dependent arising properly, you will see that that it's like things that can only arise in dependence on cause and conditions, dependence upon parts, and dependence upon the perspective that the knowing consciousness brings to it. But we don't understand all that, or we do understand it, but we don't get it, it doesn't come through really fully to our, perception. So things still keep on appearing to us as inherently existent, and we grasp them to exist like that, and ourselves too, and then we get into all sorts of trouble. So this wisdom, the wisdom realization, realizing emptiness is so important, and it kind of, is the most important realization of all, really. And so this is the sixth perfection, when we've realized that, and we've brought it, to direct perception, and we keep on meditating, and this is we burn away our the afflictions, the seeds of the afflictions, all these dysfunctional tendencies, and the negative kind of side to our the way we look at things. All that gets burnt away, so our mind becomes more and more pure through the power of this meditation and emptiness. And that's the way we kind of make progress towards Buddhahood, alongside the contribution of all our compassionate and sort of caring activities, trying to benefit others as well. So let's read number 22 then. And wisdom, I think suchness most profound. Suchness is just another word for emptiness or reality, the way things really are, the ultimate view. Path to extract samsara's very root. So this path, the path of realizing emptiness, the path of really directly perceiving emptiness and soaking the mind in that realization, this is what will, cut off our attachment to samsara. This is what will pull out samsara's, afflictions, samsara's troubles, all by the very root, so that they won't come back again. The source of excellence in scripture praised. Yes, so I've been trying to praise it in my own little way. So just like that, it's praised in many scriptures. Most famed of lamps to lift confusion's gloom. Yeah, so this is the one, this is the one that really makes sense of everything. And so your heart can be at rest when you've got this realization. So this is one that is, the best of all kind of means to, lift you out of confusion, lift you out of the darkness of your sort of self-doubt, or your kind of, do the Buddhas really exist, and kind of, is it really possible that I could become a Buddha? Is it possible that I can perfect my own mind? And all these doubts one continues to have about, is it possible for, the Buddhist path really to be true, and for me to go to follow it all the way to the end? All those, doubts and confusion and misunderstandings. And this is the realization that will really give you the confidence and really show you the way to go, and really cut through the root of ignorance. So the wise who yearn for freedom, knowing this, with every effort generate that path. So the wise, the ones who yearn for freedom, the ones who want to be bodhisattvas, the ones who realize emptiness directly, so they make every effort to just meditate on emptiness again and again and again. So I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. So this is, those are those two, just thought of separately. But now what you've got to do, what the real skillful yogi does, they have to combine them. First of all, one point of concentration is just a very steady thing on a static object, like, say, for the instance, an image of a Buddha. Or it could be a very simple object like your breath, relatively simple in the sense you're not trying to understand anything complicated about the breath. You just use the breath as a thing to place your mind steadily on. So it's, in that sense, it's sort of a simple object, things that you can develop a single-pointed and concentration on most easily, like that. Just very static objects, you see. And then, you develop single-pointed concentration using an object like that. But then that's just concentration, right? But then you want to bring the concentration into, your practice of the path. So then you want to be able to use your concentration to investigate other things, such as the Four Noble Truths, or such as the meaning of emptiness. So you want to combine your concentration with your wisdom, but in the beginning, whenever you you try to analyze using your concentrated mind, you slip out of the concentration, because the analysis is like contrary to the concentration. You lose the steadiness of mind because you start thinking about something, and so they don't go together. And if you're analyzing, then it's very difficult to do it with this single point of concentration, because the analyzing is just, you know, you have to think about this point, think about that point, think about this reason, and sort of, you know, do your own research like that. So in the beginning, the two are very contrary to each other. They don't kind of go together. But if you keep practicing, if you keep you know, training your mind, then eventually you can keep this single point of concentration even while you're doing your investigation, your reasoned investigation, and giving yourself the reasons for emptiness. So that's the next stage, you see, when you have a united, you know, it's a united front, a kind of a union of calm abiding, which is the concentration, and insight, which is, you know, the wisdom realizing emptiness. When you've got those together, then you're really making progress, and you can really like sort of you know, make that work, that understanding of emptiness really work for you, you know, because you can meditate in it with such concentration that it has the power really to purify your mind. So we read the next two verses then. Number 23. One-pointed concentration by itself, we don't see how can cut samsara's root. Yeah, so the concentration is great, but on its own isn't going to, you know, cut the ignorance which binds you to samsara. Nor wisdom lacking calm abiding's path dispel the afflictions, much though it may probe. So you've got the wisdom which understands emptiness, but unless you can apply it, you know, with a single point of concentration, it won't really uproot the very, you know, the subtle levels of the afflictions. You get rid of your gross grasping of you know, the self of persons, but the grasping will come back again when you, you know, arise from your meditation. So to really make it go away for good, you have to have a very powerful mind, which really cleanses even the subtle levels of these afflictions. So that's where the calm abiding comes in. It's necessary to give the mind of wisdom power to really, you know, sort of dissolve away all these sort of subtle levels of stain and affliction. So you have to put the both together. So mount the wisdom, settling how things are upon unwavering calm abiding steed. Wide wisdom then probe well with its sharp sword of reason's middle way beyond extremes, destroy all objects of extremist views, and so make insight into suchness vast. So that's how you've got to proceed. So when you've got the calm abiding and the wisdom realizing themselves together, then you really stand a good chance of you know, making yourself, you know, the sort of the clarity of your mind. You need to go to Buddhahood or to individual liberation. So this gives you the mind the power that gives your wisdom the power to really cut through. So with verse number 24 then, with concentration from what need to say one-pointed focus plus discernment that precisely probes, the concentration grows that fixed unwavering on the mode of being. Amazing who, seeing this, strive to achieve united calm abiding and insight. So that's just what I've been saying. So you have the single point of concentration, but you want to be able to fix it on, you know, this subtle emptiness. And that takes a lot of doing, you see, and then really investigate that emptiness till you've got it correctly, see what it's all about, and then fix your mind on that emptiness. So that's when you've got the two together working like that so well, then we call that the union of calm abiding and insight. Calm abiding and special insight, sometimes they say. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. So there's one more verse about this, still on the same topic, you know, because this is, you know, the sort of the culmination of a lot of effort on the part of the yogi, who's really kind of got the mental ability to go all the way. So they have to do a lot of practice on the concentration, and then, you know, take a lot of teachings in emptiness and really investigate them and try to get the mind down to the sort of subtle level where they can understand Tsongkhapa's fine points. So this is the way Tsongkhapa himself went anyway. And then you bring your compassion in, your bodhicitta, you're trying to do this for the sake of all sentient beings. So at the back of your efforts here, you've always got bodhicitta. You always go and refresh your mind of bodhicitta. So you're trying to do this for all beings' sake. So yes, we have the practice of concentration. So the practice of giving, we have the practice of patience, we have the practice of, you know, morality. But in the end, you know, you've got to have a really strong, you know, realization of emptiness, and then things become clear and you can really start to practice skillfully then and really sort of see where people's problems are coming from. Once you've got the realization of emptiness, you see what the root of samsara actually is, but you've actually managed to cut it yourself. So this is kind of the practice for the bodhisattva with compassion in mind. But here we're just talking about the concentration and the wisdom still. So praise those who dual voidness cultivate. In equipoise, the space-like voidness, and post-meditation, the illusion-like. So when you're meditating in emptiness, really it's like you're in a sort of equipoise, or this sort of a deep state of meditative concentration. We say, and when you realize the emptiness there, it's like realizing it's a bit space-like, because everything opens out. You realize there's no inherent existence of this object you're thinking about. Maybe it's yourself, you see, or maybe it's some sort of external object. So there's nothing there on the ultimate level, you see. Previously, it seemed as if the object was really there by its own power from its own side. But when you realize the emptiness of it, then it kind of disappears, because you've got you're just realizing the ultimate nature of it. How does it really exist, independent of mental investigation, independent of a mental perspective? How does it really exist from its own side? There's no existence like that from its own side whatsoever. It doesn't have any inherent, intrinsic existence at all. So you realize, when you realize that, you're realizing some sort of, a sheer negation, sheer emptiness, a sheer freedom from appearances of inherent existence. And you won't have any appearance of your object of meditation at that point, like pot or yourself, or, the basis of emptiness. They'll subside. So you just meditate in emptiness alone, which is the mere absence of intrinsic existence. So even subject and object disappear at that point. Your mind enters into a very sort of engulfing state of, just amazement at, well, what's actually there, from the object's side, without any interpretation by the mind. Then you just have this sheer nothingness, so that's sheer emptiness. So that's the space-like voidness that you arrive at in your deep meditation. And then when you arise from the meditation, then you see that all the things that you formerly just took for granted, like, the ordinary sights of the world and the ordinary objects that fill the world, you see how they're like illusions. They appear to exist from their own side, even after you've arisen from a deep meditation and an emptiness. The old appearance comes back, because it takes a long time to eradicate that appearance of inherent existence. Even though it doesn't exist, still it keeps appearing to you as inherently existent. Like, even when you've realized the water of a mirage is not water, it's just a mirage. It's just sort of, a disturbance of the air, because of the air kind of has been heated or something, so it's reflecting differently. So you think it's water, but it's just actually a reflection of the sky or something like that. But even when you know that, the mirage can still keep appearing to you as water. It's very convincing, deception sometimes, isn't it? So this is the illusion-like. So after meditation, you arise and things appear to inherently exist again, but you're not fooled by that appearance. You're not carried away by it, because that's an illusion. And if you keep on meditating, even that illusion will disappear. When you become a Buddha, that appearance of things to inherently exist will also disappear as well. So this is the illusion-like post-meditation phase. So when you're in meditation is you really open. Your mind enters into the ultimate object, emptiness. You see, so it's like so spacious, because it's a complete negation. There's nothing there on the ultimate ground. Things appear and exist conventionally just by mere imputation, but on the ultimate ground, there's nothing there. Very spacious. But in the post-meditation state, it's illusion-like, because you see things appearing to be inherently existent, and they're not. Yeah. So it's like you just remember that. So by remembering that, then you don't get carried away back into your your moods of affliction, of like, despondency, or, kind of, despair, or, kind of, being fed up, or, finding sort of life being tedious, or, getting angry, or attachment to, the beautiful objects of samsara. You kind of, see, you can see it's all an illusion. So things might still appear beautiful, but, you've got another perspective on it as well, that's only a beauty projected by your mind in the perspective of your own mind, according to your own kind of, sort of, wherever you're coming from, because of your human rebirth, or because of your, the predilections of your own mind, you see it in a certain way. but that's only like, it's only there in the perspective of the observer. And you ask what is actually there on the object side from its own side, nothing. So you remember that things are like illusions, so you don't get carried away by your afflicted minds. So those are the two types of voidness: the one in meditation, and the one after your meditation when you're kind of just going about your business in the world. So then, by wisdom joined with method, then. So that's the wisdom realizing emptiness joined with the method, which is here as a concentration. Or you can say the wisdom is the ultimate side of your practice, and the other 5 perfections are the method side. I talked at the beginning of 2 collections: a collection of merit and a collection of wisdom. So the wisdom is that's your collection of wisdom, and then the method is the other 5 perfections. So they're all accumulating this great store of virtue that you need on the conventional side, and so. So then with wisdom joined with method, then perfect the conqueror children's needs. The fortunate, seeing this, don't rest content with partial paths. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. So that's his presentation on concentration and emptiness, then both of them together, how they fit together, and how you get to Buddhahood, with the insight of wisdom, leading the other 5 perfections to the state of Buddhahood. And now a little quick mention about Tantra in verse number 26. Supreme great vehicle paths, cause and effect, both need the common path. So we're talking about, the tantric path now. So the supreme great vehicle path has 2 types. There's a sutra practice, a bodhisattva vehicle, and there's a tantric practice. You'll only find the tantric practice, in the Mahayana, in the bodhisattva vehicle. So that's another step beyond. Going to Buddhahood through the steps of the sutra path is very long and very, it takes many lifetimes, many lifetimes. So the tantric vehicle, which is like the effect vehicle, the sutra vehicle, the cause vehicle, tantra vehicle, the effect vehicle, is trying to speed you along a bit. But both of them need, they have all the other paths we've been talking about so far. Both of them need that sort of, the common path. So both of them, you need to practice the common path first well. So it's saying if you want to practice Tantra, you have to practice all the other stages of the other, the paths beforehand, the individual liberation path and the sutra path of the bodhisattva vehicle. You have to be very well versed in those. And then you can, if you find the right master, you can be introduced to the tantric path. Tsongkhapa was very keen on the tantric path himself. He studied and taught that extensively. So he doesn't talk about it here because the tradition is to talk more about, in the Lamrim teachings, just a sutra path. But he's saying, but you can go beyond these teachings when you're ready and also enter the tantric path. So that practiced well, safe guidance from an expert pilot take and sail the tantra sets, vast ocean all. So 4 tantra sets, 4 different levels of tantra. Heed all the pith advice, make meaningful the leisure and endowments you've obtained. I too, a yogi, practiced in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, do the same. So that's just a quick look back at all the, at our precious human rebirth there. So you've been given this opportunity now. You've got this life with a little bit of leisure in it, a little bit of intelligence, So what more do you need? So make it all meaningful. And so then Tsongkhapa's final dedication, so he's just rounding up his verses in the traditional way by, dedicating the virtue of his composition, all the good energy that is aroused by composing the virtues, then he directs it onto, in the way of a sort of a virtuous intention, a virtuous aim, a virtuous benefit for all others. So this is very important, when you do good action, don't just leave it like that. That will just ripen up in samsara, and it'll give you samsaric happiness if it ripens up. But we want the, our actions, to be able to lead to, sort of an understanding of the Buddha's deep teachings, you know, so how we can get out of samsara. So we have to dedicate them in that way. We have to mentally direct our actions after we've done them, in the direction of, you know, making progress in the Dharma, becoming enlightened for the sake of all. So he says, in order to acquaint my mind with it and serve those others with good fortune too, I have explained in plain and simple words the whole path pleasing to the conquerors. Fair enough. And then the dedication, pray all my greatest by this virtue be not parted from the excellent pure path. I too, a yogi, made prayers in this way. You too, who yearn for freedom, make the same. So, any more questions there? Or we can have a quick 20 minutes of meditation, or 15 minutes.
I have a question, fairly technical, that's come up from, we've just gone through it in Lamrim, Bristol, Nagarjuna's letter, and we're just about to embark on studying the Four Noble Truths. And I've got to deal with cessation. So I just had a little bit of a question about the transition from the path of preparation and the path of seeing. But would it be better to wait until after the meditation for that?
Well, we haven't got a lot of time. So yeah, could you perhaps wait then? Because we've only got really 10 minutes or so to do a meditation.
I thought it would be better at the end.
Okay, because we just try to connect with the Buddhas in a more personal way then now with a bit of meditation. So we'll have a couple of moments of breathing meditation. So we can slip into the mode. So just follow the breath in and out of the nostrils for just a few breaths. Just relax your body where possible, get rid of tension, and just keep your back straight. So let us visualize the Buddhas before us again, just briefly. So really feel that we are close. The Buddhas are with us all the time. Now is the time to open up to that. And let us experience their presence through visualization, not just a feeling of closeness. And feel they're really trying to lift us to see things in a clearer way. Give us enthusiasm for our Dharma investigations. So once again, we come under their care and their blessings come down to our heart in the form of white light, white nectar, or orange, or golden light, golden rain, shower of nectar, however we visualize, purifying and enhancing power with the Buddha's presence, the Guru's presence. So we have great compassion, wishing to relieve all sentient beings of their suffering. Bodhicitta, saying, well, in order to do that, I will get involved. I will do my best to become a Buddha in order to help in that way. So one of the things I need to perfect then, motivated by bodhicitta to do the bodhisattva deeds, I need to perfect my practice of patience. So perfection of patience, it doesn't mean we've solved all our problems with our, opponents or, people who have disputes with us, or people who are dissatisfied with us. It doesn't mean that, because that's not so easy necessarily. But we have got rid of any trace of anger, any trace of unruliness or discontent in the face of harms, whether it is harms from other people who are making trouble or being very thoughtless, or whether it is harms from the disasters of cyclic existence, like illness or injury, whatever it is. So we face all those without any anger, without any sort of discontent or dissatisfaction, or sort of self-cherishing, where we think it's such a that it's make ourselves unhappy with our disappointment. So we've got rid of all that. We have this serene state of mind, complete welcoming when any problem arises. Well, it's just the way samsara is, So we're just happy to deal with it, because that is our bodhisattva practice. It's dealing with the problems of samsara. That's what we're here for. So just try to imagine that serene state of mind where you're really perfecting the practice of patience. So that means working on our, tendency to get angry, or if not angry, openly angry, at least underneath the surface being, dissatisfied and, sulking, or, cherishing or nourishing our hurt feelings. But I'm doing all the work of, keeping quiet. The other person is taking, being, not straightening out their own mind. It's just me who's got to, soak up the pressure, so you feel unhappy or dissatisfied. So even that, you see, is to dissolve away with the correct practice of patience. But we have to deal with that, you see. So just a couple of verses from Shantideva. So he says, if doing harm to others is natural for the childish, it is wrong to get angry at them, just as it is at fire's burning nature. So if the people we're having problems with, if it's just in their nature to be, troublesome, if it's just they can't help it, it's just they've never learned how to control themselves, and they're just like a badly behaved dog or something that's too old to train. They don't know any better than just to growl or to be dissatisfied or be suspicious, because they're past the age of being able to be trained. They were not trained well early in childhood, or had traumatic experiences, so they're always going to be in a sort of a state of difficult to deal with. So some people like that too. But if they're naturally like that, they've got their own, reasons why they're like that. We can see that they're fixed in their ways. They aren't going to change. So then there's no point in getting angry with them. If a fire burns us, we do get angry, but it's no point in getting angry at the fire. We just get angry because we're used to getting angry. We're not angry with the fire. We're not angry with ourselves. We're just angry because we got burnt. But if the harm's coming from somebody else, you see, then it's still anger is pointless. Just like we get angry when we accidentally drop a cup or something. Pointless kind of anger. But also, if the anger is coming from somebody else, but they can't help it, that's just their way. That's naturally like that. Then, what's the point of getting angry? It's just a waste of energy. Use your energy more skillfully. Just have to put up with it. If you have to, you have to. On the other hand, says Shantideva, still, if the fault is adventitious and the nature of beings is good, my anger is wrong, just as is anger at smoke's appearance in the sky. So even if the person is just being harmful and unhelpful in a kind of a way that isn't their own very nature, they're just being mischievous or greedy or something, and it's a fault that they don't show all the time, and you can say to yourself, yeah, well, the nature of beings is good, so actually that they have a potential to be a good person, so they've got Buddha nature like me. They aren't sort of some pathetic being who just can criticize and despise. They are somebody who also has possibility to become Buddha. They've got to respect that. And anger again is wrong. They've got a very pure potential, so I shouldn't get angry with them. Maybe you have to correct their behavior, and there's a chance that I can if that behavior is just adventitious. So maybe something you can do about it. But at the heart, they're just another suffering sentient being like me. So it's no good getting angry with them. And it says this is like getting angry at smoke's appearance in the sky. So smoke's appearance in the sky is not in the nature of the sky, it's just a temporary thing. It happens now and again, but basically the sky is pure. So try to see other beings in that light then, if that's the case. That they have a show of harming, or they have a show of getting angry, they have a show of being dissatisfied with me, but it's just a passing show. It's just like, they're not like that all the time. So we don't have to react in a very hostile manner. Just be patient, and it maybe blows over. You know? So then they go back to being kind of more normal and acceptable in their behavior. So we just wait. So we don't, because they freak out with their emotions, doesn't mean that we have to freak out with ours. Just let it happen, and then, you know, it's just samsara kind of just making problems. But then, you know, things can get back to a more peaceful state. So just be patient, just wait, and you know, and don't get carried away by the other person's emotion. So just as when a bodhisattva, advanced bodhisattva at least, gets a chance to be generous, opportunity for giving, she or he is very delighted. It's just what they want to be able to do. And so when a bodhisattva like that also meets problem people, then again, you know, they just see it as an opportunity to develop compassion, develop patience, practice their patience, so that they welcome problem people and try to do the best for them, because that's you know, that's also part of their training too. So their patience is one of their great jewels, their perfections. So let's try to imitate them, achieve that level of serenity. So now let's dedicate our virtue then. That the Buddhas inspire us, their blessings come to us, and any little good efforts we've made, either today or in, you know, thinking about the 3 lessons we've had together, teaching this subject, dedicate all those virtues to the great enlightenment, So maybe we can become Buddha one day, like a great inspiration. So dedicate the month in that way. Then we can say the final prayers. But did you want to ask your question now, Paul? People are in a hurry to go. Maybe that's what do you want to do, Paul?
So do the prayers, finish the session, and then those who have to go won't have to listen.
Okay, I'll do it like that. Yeah, that's best probably. Final Lam Rim prayer. And then Holiness Long Life prayer. Through what I've gathered by long efforts here, of two collections vast as space, may I become a mighty conqueror, guiding all, whose wisdom eye is dimmed by ignorance. And thus is time held by Manjushri's love. In all eyes let me find the best paths of graduated teachings all complete, and please the conquerors by achieving it. As all my love's compelling power and skill, in seeing the path's essentials as they are, expunging darkness from my greatest minds. Though Congress teachings may I long uphold, where these most precious teachings of the best have not yet spread, or once spread have declined. With great compassion lifting up the heart, let me reveal this treasure of delight. May to the stages of enlightening path, attained with sons and conquerors wondrous age, bring freedom seekers' minds to glory, and thou conquerors' actions long perpetuate, with right conditions found for following the gentle path and adverse ones removed. May humans and non-humans for all lives not part from that pure path the conquerors praise, when anyone endeavors to perform the best of vehicles tenfold armor deeds. May those almighty always lend their aid, and oceans of good fortune all pervade. Source of this world's every help and joy, wish fulfilling jewel, I pray to you. Matchless kind one tends in Gyatso, effortlessly be your aims attained. So that's it. Thanks very much. It's best I could do. I don't know if Jason wants to say anything, but maybe I'll see you in September, possibly in Wales. It's a possibility.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. And I hope you can come to Wales.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Paul, it's all yours.
Okay, so it comes out of looking at Nagarjuna's letter last term in Lammer in Bristol and looking at the Four Noble Truths this term.